So picture this. You're a successful actor, sitting on millions, and you've got this brilliant idea for a movie that nobody else believes in. So you do what any confident artist would do. You bet on yourself. You write the check. You become the producer, the financier, the one calling all the shots. This is your passion project, your artistic vision. So you're going to do whatever it takes to get this movie released at the box office. And guess what? You made it happen despite all the odds. So what happens next? The movie flops catastrophically, of course. Today, we're diving into the brutal reality of actors who didn't just star in massive flops, they paid for the privilege. These are the stories of Hollywood ego meets financial disaster, where believing in yourself cost millions. Tom Green, Freddy Got Fingered, 2001. In 2001, Tom Green was riding high on MTV fame, and Hollywood handed him a blank check to make whatever movie he wanted. The budget was $14 million, but here's where it gets interesting. Green didn't just star in this thing, he directed it, wrote it, and heavily invested his own money into the production. On paper, this should have been a slam dunk. Green had a massive fan base from his MTV show, the outrated comedy market was hot, and studios were desperate for the next big comedy hit. But to call this movie a disaster feels too polite for what actually happened. Freddy Got Fingered made exactly $14,333,252 worldwide. It pulled in just $78,259 internationally. Think about that. A movie that cost $14 million made less than $80,000 outside of North America. Green's personal investment meant he lost significant money on what was supposed to be his big Hollywood breakthrough. The film became legendary for all the wrong reasons, and Green's movie career never fully recovered. Kirk Cameron, Saving Christmas, 2014. Here's where things get really painful. Kirk Cameron, former teen heartthrob from Growing Pains, decided to finance and produce a Christmas movie that would save the holiday from commercialization. The irony writes itself. Cameron backed a $500,000 production that was supposed to connect with Christian audiences nationwide. On paper, this looked like easy money. Christian films were having a moment. Christmas movies are always in demand, and Cameron had name recognition. So, guess what happened? Saving Christmas grossed just $2.7 million against its $500,000 budget. Wait, that sounds like a profit, right? Wrong. After marketing costs, theater cuts, and distribution fees, Cameron's investment was a total loss. But the real disaster wasn't financial. It was reputational. The movie became something the people loved to hate. That's why it only earned a sad 1.3 score on IMDb. And it destroyed whatever credibility Cameron had left as a serious actor. He didn't just lose money, he lost his career betting on a message that audiences absolutely rejected. Laurence Fishburne, Once in the Life 2000. This one hurts because of how much genuine talent was involved. Laurence Fishburne, fresh off the Matrix success, decided to adapt his own stage play into a film. He wrote it, directed it, and financed the entire production himself. On paper, this looked like it would be a prestigious project. Fishburne was at the height of his career, he had proven material from his own play, and you know what? Serious character dramas were getting a lot of attention from the Oscars. Films like American Beauty, Traffic, and Gladiator were all dominating award season. And Hollywood was hungry for substantive, adult-oriented storytelling. And then there's the fact that Fishburne's play had already proven itself on stage with strong reviews and solid audience response. The timing seemed perfect. A respected actor taking creative control to tell a meaningful story about street life and redemption. What's worse is that this wasn't some vanity project or ego trip. This was an established actor with serious credentials making a calculated artistic bet at what seemed like exactly the right cultural moment. But what happened next proved that talent, timing, and good intentions mean absolutely nothing. Once in the Life earned less than $20,000 theatrically. $20,000. For a movie financed entirely by one of Hollywood's most respected actors, Fishburne's investment was a complete loss, and the film disappeared without a trace. The tragedy here isn't just the money, but it's watching a phenomenal actor bet on his own artistic vision and walk away with nothing but a giant multi-million-dollar bill at the end. Sylvester Stallone's Driven, 2001. Stallone, in 2001, was trying to prove he was more than just Rocky and Rambo. He'd written the racing drama that was supposed to showcase his dramatic chops and attract a new audience. The movie had everything: fast cars, romance, and Stallone showing his range as both writer and star. Driven had a substantial budget, and Stallone invested heavily in its success. On paper, this looked like a potential franchise starter. Racing movies could be huge, Stallone still had box office pull, and the action genre was thriving. Studios were throwing massive budgets at anything with explosions. The Fast and the Furious had just proven that audiences were hungry for high-octane motor mayhem, and Hollywood was scrambling to find the next big thing in motorized entertainment. Stallone seemed perfectly positioned to capitalize on this trend. He had the action credibility, the star power, and now a script that combined his dramatic ambitions with the market's appetite for speed and spectacle. Every element was aligned for what should have been a commercial home run. But the movie bombed spectacularly, losing money both domestically and internationally. Stallone's investment meant he personally lost millions on a project that was supposed to redefine his career. And this proves that past success guarantees absolutely nothing in Hollywood. Because let's not forget that this is a man who created two of cinema's most enduring franchises and yet still failed so terribly. Milla Jovovich and Paul W.S. Anderson in The Lost Lands 2025. The husband and wife team behind the Resident Evil franchise decided to adapt a fantasy project that would showcase their creative partnership beyond zombie action. The couple invested heavily in the production, betting on their proven ability to create successful genre entertainment. On paper, this looked like a safe investment. They had a track record, a built-in fan base, and experience making profitable movies together. But the movie was a disaster, both critically and financially. Rotten Tomatoes gave it a brutal 23% from critics, with reviewers calling it an ugly-looking misfire, poorly written, and a total waste of talent. Ouch. The audience score wasn't much better, at 47%. Critics pointed out that the film felt rushed, with cheap-looking effects that made their Resident Evil movies look like masterpieces in comparison. Many reviews mentioned that the fantasy element seemed borrowed from better films, and the story was so convoluted that even die-hard fans of the source material couldn't follow what was happening. But by far, the most damaging criticism was that it felt like a vanity project. Two filmmakers who had gotten too comfortable making the same type of movie and completely lost touch with what audiences actually wanted. Box office-wise, it only earned about 10% of its production budget, making it one of the biggest financial disasters for any established filmmaking duo in recent memory. It only grossed approximately $6.1 to $6.2 million worldwide on a $55 million budget. So the couple likely lost millions of dollars on this movie because of their personal investment through their production company, Dream Brothers Entertainment. Now, let's talk about a completely different kind of disaster, because it isn't just actors that invest into their own flops, it's directors too. Francis Ford Coppola, Megalopolis 2024. Francis Ford Coppola is literally one of the greatest filmmakers in cinema history. The Godfather trilogy, Apocalypse Now. The man has 5 Oscars sitting on his shelf. When he announces a passion project decades in the making, you'd think studios would be throwing money at him, right? Wrong. Coppola spent $120 million of his own money to make Megalopolis, a sci-fi epic he'd been developing for years. On paper, this looked like it would be a prestigious masterpiece. A legendary director with unlimited creative freedom. No studio interference, and a massive budget to realize his vision exactly as he imagined it. Adam Driver is the lead, a stellar supporting cast, and the visionary behind some of cinema's greatest achievements, finally getting to make his dream project. But here's the thing about dream projects. Sometimes they're a nightmare for everyone else. The nightmare unfolded during production itself. Coppola reportedly clashed with crew members, fired multiple department heads, and the set became notorious for chaos and confusion. Stories leaked about actors not understanding their characters or even the basic plot. The script went through constant rewrites during filming, with scenes being reshot multiple times. What was supposed to be a smooth passion project turned into a production nightmare, and by the time it reached theaters, the film reflected all the uncertainty and behind-the-scenes chaos. Megalopolis opened to a disappointing $5 to $7 million box office debut, and the pain didn't stop there. The total box office was only $14.3 million, according to Wikipedia. Let's just remember that this movie cost over $120 million to make, and a lot of this was from Coppola's own pocket. $14.3 million worldwide? That's less than 10% of the production budget, and God only knows what they spent on marketing. The real tragedy? This wasn't some vanity project from a washed-up director. This was a legendary filmmaker betting everything on his artistic vision, only to watch audiences completely reject it. Next up, the calculated risk that changed everything for Vin Diesel. You're going to want to stick around till the end, because I promise this story is not going to end how you expect it to. Before Vin Diesel was famous, he financed his own indie film called Strays in 1997. This was to showcase his talents as writer, director, and star. According to Wikipedia, the movie had a budget of $47,000, which is not nothing when you're a struggling actor. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds a score of 40% based on 5 reviews, with an average rating of 5.1 out of 10. One critic from Variety magazine described the film as an intermittently engaging derivative film. Ouch. Anyway, the movie lost money and barely got seen by anyone. Diesel's investment looked like a complete waste, right? Another actor throwing money away on a vanity project nobody wanted. But this one has a happy ending, because Steven Spielberg saw the movie and was impressed by Diesel's work. Spielberg cast him in Saving Private Ryan. That led to the Fast and the Furious. And the rest is history. So what originally looked like a financial loss actually became the best investment of his career.